Strength Warehouse presents Go Heavy or Go Home podcast. I am your host, Nate Boley. In this podcast, we talk about strength, fitness, nutrition, and all things Strength Warehouse related. Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. You're hanging out with me, just me today. Lucky you, the host, Nate Boley. Anyway, today we're going to be chatting about one of the three main big movements in powerlifting, and that is the bench press. So anytime you're out there in the world and you're talking to somebody in the elevator, at a birthday party, at a barbecue, in the gym, what's the one question that you hear on repeat? It's, how much can you bench, bro? Right? The bench press is like a universal trademark, a universal benchmark for how strong you are for everybody out there. It's only really one benchmark that you should be tracking. There's multiple other ones, but it also is very impressive. If you can bench press, 1.5 or 2 times your body weight and up, that gets very, very impressive. If you can see somebody who's bench pressing, 2.5 times their body weight, that's very impressive. And most of the times those end up being, records in the powerlifting world. But today we're just going to go over kind of what the bench press is, what kind of intensity and volume you should be using, some supporting different exercises, and some different bench variations. All right. So the bench press, in a nutshell, you're laying down on a bench and you're taking a barbell with plates on it and you're lowering it down to your chest, and then you're bringing it back up to full extension again. Depending on what your goals are and all that type of stuff, you could be doing anywhere from 1 rep to, rep out, where you're going to do as many as you want. Just really depends on your goals. So that kind of segues into, I guess going back to the bench press, it is a full body movement. It's a full body engagement, and a lot of people don't realize that. They come into our gym and, we start trying to teach them how to do the bench press or whatever. And we ask them, hey, what's their experience with the bench press? And most of the time I hear, oh yeah, I used to bench press in high school and college. Cool. Awesome. Why don't you just go ahead and come out here and we'll get some warm up stuff, and then we'll see how you do. So, and then I'll have them sit down on the bench, get set up, unrack the bar. And usually typically what you see is somebody just sits down on the bench, they kind of lay back, and then they unrack the bar and just start repping it out. So there's no leg engagement, no core, no shoulder placement, just nothing's tight, and they're just kind of loosey-goosey just doing it. And then we show them how to set up the proper arch, get their core tight, breathe correctly, stack their lats, stack their shoulders, get their leg drive engaged, and then it's a whole nother game. They're like, whoa, I had no clue that I could be so sore in the rest of my body after what, perceivably looks like just an upper body movement, right? All right, that kind of segues right into volume. So how much volume should you be doing? This is very, very dependent on a couple different aspects. Like, hey, what are your goals, and do you have any injuries? So I've seen people do 3 times a week. I've seen a couple people do 4 times a week. I guess I've seen some bros in regular gyms doing every single day, 5 days a week. And then I see people do 1 time a week, 1, 2, and 3 times a week, or typically what you're going to see for kind of strength gains and muscle growth, hypertrophy. So for the longest time, I did 1 day a week, and it worked just fine. Mostly because I was injured. But for me, my goals are to get, the heaviest to 1 rep max I possibly can in the sport of powerlifting. So you need a little bit more volume and a little bit more intensity and stuff like that. And you need some extra supporting bench variations and stuff like that. So usually it typically looks like 1 day is my competition bench, and then not the following day, but the next workout that I'm going to hit that's bench is going to be some type of bench variation and supporting exercises type stuff. So if you're not going for ultimate powerlifting competition strength, 1 time a week with a barbell bench press is going to be just fine for you. Now, of course, you should be doing other things than just that, but to get some awesome, pec engagement, shoulder and triceps and lats and all that type of stuff without risking too much injury, it's definitely advantageous just to do once, like you'll find in our group classes at the gym. So intensity, this really comes down to, again, goals as well. You should be always trying to push intensity and or some more reps. So one thing that I see a lot of people doing is I've heard a lot of guys doing, and women, they go into the gym and they just try to do the same exact weight for 1 more or 2 more reps each week. Now, you're going to get stronger and you're going to gain some muscle, but at some point you're going to break down form, you're going to kind of, plateau, all that type of stuff. So it's best to do some kind of linear progression where you're going to start out kind of with higher reps and lower weight, and then you're going to move down in reps and move up in weight. And that's really how you build like a solid platform. And again, it just depends on what your goals are. So if you're just trying to be strong for lifetime activities or outdoor activities, whatever, 1 time a week doing a progressive overload is absolutely, is totally fine. Try to build the bench press where you're going to, break some records or, that type of stuff. Probably 2 times a week is going to be, really good for you. Do you need 3? Again, that's really personal. All right. So we're going to some supporting movements. All right. So as we know, the chest, the shoulders, the triceps are the main primary movers of the actual bench press. But I can't remember who exactly said this, but somebody out there in the strength and bodybuilding world said, if you have a strong back, you're probably going to have a strong bench press as well. So the back plays a huge, has a huge place in bench pressing. So barbell rows is huge. Obviously, you want to make sure it's, that you're staying safe and not like, jerking the bar off the floor and really just rocking around, but nice and controlled barbell movements and just getting stronger in that. Shoulder press. Again, I think this came from the West Side barbell guys, but one of the guys was saying, hey, every time I do, a progressive overload on my shoulder press, my bench press goes up. And I've seen a lot of people say that, and it's actually been true for me as well. If my barbell or dumbbell shoulder press goes up, usually I have seen some kind of progression in my bench as well. Weighted dips, again, that's another one that's one of those supporting movements that's got like a direct translation to my bench. Now, everybody has a little bit different of direct translations to that. But yeah, weighted dips, shoulder press, and barbell rows, if those all go up, I'm going to be seeing some kind of PR, whether it's a 3-rep max PR or 1-rep max PR or whatever. JM press, again, this is another, I think this came from the West Side barbell clan, but it's such a great exercise for your triceps, and it just hits them slightly different than any other movement that I've done. And you'll feel it as soon as you do it. So go ahead and look up a JM press. We do it sometimes in our group classes as well. And then people always complain of how they kind of hurt the next day. They're sore. But yeah, those are basically the supporting movements that I would recommend. They're kind of of course, there's other ones and stuff, but those are like the main ones that I, kind of filter through my programming as well. All right, we can go into some bench variations. So there's a bunch of them, but I'm just going to kind of name them and kind of give you a little bit of a rundown on what they kind of look like, right? So first one is close grip bench. So basically you're going to take the same bench stance and all that type of stuff set up, but you're just going to bring your hands in a little bit. I usually tend to bring my hand in about 4 fingers from where my normal grip is. I feel like if I go any more than that, I kind of put a lot of tension on my wrist, which I don't like. But obviously the less pec activation and the more tricep activation, which the triceps are a huge mover in the bench press, especially at lockout. All right, reverse grip bench. I haven't done a ton of this, but I know there's some people out there that have really just like this is their way of getting a stronger bench press, including Kolb Strong, which has like a 1,400 pound bench. Of course, it's in a shirt, but that's still a huge feat of strength. I would never be able to come close to that. But yeah, he always touts. I've been on his lives and everything. I'm like, hey, Kolb, what's the best bench press variation? He swears by it. Reverse grip bench. It feels really sketchy. And I would highly recommend having a spotter with you the first time you do it, because unracking the bar reverse grip is super weird. But it also is really good if you have shoulder injuries. You can still bench press a lot of the times if you got like shoulder impingements or, torn rotator cuff or whatever. A lot of people, bodybuilders or CrossFitters or powerlifters or whatever, that have had injuries to their shoulders, they reverse grip bench and they still seem to have quite a bit of success. I know one of my friends, he actually just got a state record, I think, in the bench with the reverse grip bench. Floor press. All right. So floor press and the next one that I'm going to talk about is spoto press. They're pretty similar in the realm where you don't go through the full range of motion. So in the floor press, you're going to set it up on a rack, like a power rack or something like that. And you're going to lay down on the ground. You're going to unrack the bar, and then you're going to bring it down to where your triceps hit the ground. And then you're going to reverse the bar and go back up. Now, you do not want to just let your triceps bang into the ground. It's going to mess you up and it's not going to feel very good. So it's a slow, kind of touch your triceps and then press back up. So what it's effectively doing is taking a lot of the pec out of it and just using your stabilizer muscles for back and forth, and then really driving it on those triceps. Usually you probably do, I don't know, for me, like I could do probably 55-ish% of my bench, maybe a little bit more on all these different variations. And of course, you're trying to up the variation number so that helps up your competition bench. But you can try all these different ones. Some of them don't really do much for me, and other ones do. So try them all and then kind of figure out which one seems to be making your bench press progress the fastest. All right, Larson press. So Larson press is basically a legless drive bench. Everything else is set up the exact same. You're super tight in your core. You've got a little bit of an arch. Your quads are tight. Your glutes are tight. Your shoulders are stacked in, but you just don't have any leg drive. So that's really great for building, extra power and strength without relying on your leg drive. And once you've gotten leg drive down to a T and you've done it so much, if you have your feet on the ground, you're going to leg drive. So that's one way to get the leg drive out of it. So you basically set up in your bench and then your legs are fully extended out. And then you kind of grip the bench with your thighs, and then you do your bench press. It's a great one. I really like Larson press. I've done a lot of it. And let's see, tempo bench. So tempo bench is basically, you can do it either way. So usually how it's laid out is it'll have 3 numbers. So to say, we'll just start with 0. So 0, 0, 0 would mean like a touch and go bench. So you're going to come down with no time slowing it down. And then you're going to touch your chest and then you're going to come right back up. So typically what I do is I'll do on the eccentric part of it, I'm going to be doing a timed thing. So it's time under tension. So I'm going to count to like 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever it is on the way down, which is really brutal. And then you're going to hold it on your chest. You can either do a 0 or 1 or a 2 here. And then most of the time I do a 1 and then I do a 0 back up. So it's a regular bench press concentric movement. So timed on the way down, timed at the bottom, and then nothing at the top. Now you can reverse all those different numbers depending on where you're weak and kind of see which one would be the best variation for you. One other bench variation that we use in our gym quite a bit, and that is like a slingshot. So Mark Bell created this thing. It kind of ties into, and it's kind of a one-off of like a bench shirt. And so it's like a big rubber band. It goes around your elbows and it goes across your chest. And as you're coming down, it stretches out and gives you some great momentum on the way back up, similar to what a bench shirt would do, but not nearly as much actual support as a bench shirt would. There's other ones, like you can do chained bench, you can do reverse band bench, you can do against band benches, all these different bench press variations. They really can help. I know I did a lot of banded when I was younger, and that really seemed to do a lot of wonders as well. But yeah, bench is one of the most technical movements in my opinion, and it's so difficult to get all the different movements all at once, and that's why having somebody help coach you is so huge. I've been doing benching for almost 18 years now, and the last few years, I think almost 4 years now, I've been working with a coach, and just having somebody tell me what to do and bounce ideas off of, and show me things that I necessarily wouldn't be seeing because I'm biased towards my own bench. I'm like, oh, that was a great bench. And the coach is like, well, yeah, it was good, but let's fix these little technical things. That's been so huge to create, one, a really stable bench. Like every single rep looks exactly the same, which is exactly what you want. A really awesome foundation. And then the risk of injury goes down by a tremendous amount as you're progressing through getting heavier and heavier and heavier. Obviously, there's always a risk factor when you're trying to push maximum weight, right? You're going to strain muscles and tendons and joints and all that type of stuff. And this is something that I really, really, really talk about all the time with all of our clients. The setup is the absolute key. So if you don't have a good setup in your bench, and it's not like the same exact one every single time, your bench press is going to suffer. So really take some time and set up that, get a good setup, work with your coach, figure out what the best setup for you is. Now you can change it. So I've gone from, just for an example, right now I bench with my feet kind of out. And I used to bench with my feet underneath me, behind my back, with my toes pointed into the ground. I felt I could get the tightest there and have the most leg drive. And the reason why I did that is because my butt kept on coming off the bench in a heavy bench press, which would allow me not to be able to get the lift, because if you got your butt off the bench in powerlifting competition, the referees can see light underneath your butt and between the bench. It's a red light. They're going to red light you. So I switched down there, but after tearing my quad and then having some knee issues, I really decided that was going to, I was going to change it. And so my coach and I have been working on that. And now I feel pretty solid in that way. And a lot of the butt coming off the bench just happens to be the way that you're actually engaging your leg drive. And that can be a whole other podcast, is like engaging your legs. Instead of like driving your feet into the ground, you do a leg extension, basically, from trying to do a leg extension, and you're driving your hips kind of underneath your back. Now I know that's not really possible, but that's the way that the energy should go. So as it hits to the hips, it kind of goes up the spine and gets into the sternum, and then helps reverse the bar path. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for you guys. I did write a really awesome blog, which I'll link into the show notes in here. Please go on there and read it, share it. It goes into a little bit more detail than this, but I really just kind of read off of that and got some tips and pointers off that. So wanted to kind of get this out there. I'm going to do one on the squat and one on the deadlift as well, and just I wanted different platforms for people to be able to listen to it or read it and share it in different ways. But yeah, anyways, I really appreciate you guys being here today. I hope this was super valuable. I hope you took one thing away from this and you're going to implement it on your bench the next time you bench. But yeah, if you guys have any more questions, feel free to hit us up, info@benstrengthwarehouse.com. I'll link that again in the show notes, and you guys can send us some messages on what you'd like to hear. Let me know if this was a great episode and that you want to hear more content like this. But all right, guys, I'll see you on the other side. Thanks for joining us on this epic journey of strength. If you liked this episode, please leave us a review and share with a friend. To stay connected, hit that subscribe button. All right, until next time, go heavy or go home.